The Delaware County Fair is a place to create those things that will last the rest of your life. Not the physical things, the things that matter. Memories, relationships, personal achievements, and a cohesive community. The things that make you a better person. The things that make you great. The Delaware County Fair inspires greatness. It's been inspiring greatness for 150 years. It's been able to do that because of the unwavering support of the community, the leaders, the volunteers, the hard-working teachers and judges, and the dedicated, eager youth. This film offers a brief, recent history of our fair, as told by a family of 3 generations of fair participants, as well as current and past fair leadership.
My first year I was showing pigs, and of course it was a hot day, and I was watering and squirting down my hogs, keeping them cool. Well, of course, when you're a little 4th grader that has a squirt bottle and their friends are next door squirting you, a water fight breaks out. And I just remember my dad came in and just scolded me and made it known pretty well throughout the swine barn that, you know, that's a no-no.
You know, you put that many kids together, somebody's gonna get in trouble. Of course, there's always somebody getting thrown in the tank. They had water tank, you know, for the cattle to drink out of. Somebody inevitably got thrown in the tank for whatever reason, but that was about as bad as we got.
Well, of course, there was the dunk tank, which that was a staple, but one of the things I can remember vividly that we almost stepped over the line, a good friend of mine had the grand champion steer. So the morning of the sale, this is when the old horse barns were still along the east fence, but they weren't being used for anything. I think the horses went home after the horse show at that time. They didn't get to stay all week. When I was younger, the horses stayed all week. So we took the grand champion steer before the kid got there on Saturday morning for the sale, and we stashed it in one of the horse stalls. So the grand champion steer was nowhere to be had, and we didn't bring it out until like 15 minutes before the sale. And we were almost in big trouble for that one. Because, I mean, they were ready to call cops that the steer was gone, and then we started laughing, so he knew we had stashed it somewhere, so we had to fess up and go get him.
And back when it started, you realize that people didn't have a lot of things going on as far as what they're participating in. So 4-H was a big deal because that gave youth something to participate in, and of course competition's always wonderful. You know, they can raise their livestock and then show them, and county fairs have been going on for years and years, and that's what it was about. You know, you raise your livestock, you learn good practices, and the end reward is to take that to the fair and compete.
The kids were very quiet individuals, and we wanted to get them involved with things that would expand horizons. And they really enjoyed 4-H and got really involved with it, serving in a lot of offices and various committees. They learned a tremendous amount about livestock production. They actually showed livestock, a lot of the small exhibits as well. And I still remember the day my daughter had reserve grand champion gilt. She was extremely happy about that.
Oh, I think it probably affected both of my children to become active in agriculture because they got so active showing, kept them in ag. I think maybe if they weren't as active in that part of agriculture, I'm not sure they would have stayed in the ag business.
You know, there was a lot of times I remember going over to Grandma and Grandpa's where we kept all of our cattle, and we spent a lot of time leading them around, working with them, giving them some baths, combing them down, just getting them ready for the fair.
So I started showing. I never got to do the kitty calf show, which I'm still kind of bitter about, but I did get to do the kitty lamb show, and I did that for 2 years, and then went into 4-H in 4th grade, and then started with hogs. And I think my first year in 4-H, I did show a breeding heifer, and I named her Chubbles because she was kind of chubby. So especially on the hog side of things, it goes for showmanship. It goes senior, intermediate, junior, and they do that on purpose so the younger kids can watch the older kids. And I remember Mom and Dad would always, you know, pick out a couple of the seniors and be like, you need to watch what they do and you need to do what they do.
When it comes to the personal accomplishments of the children, to see how they mature and go through every stage from when they first start, and a little bit naive and scared about the whole process to being seniors involved with everything and know exactly what's supposed to be done. It's really interesting being involved with those, developing those children's direction.
The American family farm is disappearing, and with every farmer that leaves the land, and there have been roughly 280,000 in the past 3 years alone, the repercussions are felt throughout rural society. Shops and schools and businesses fall away like dominoes. Already there are ghost towns sprinkled throughout the farm belt. Abandoned farms, fields gone to seed, machinery and farm auction notices posted in every shop window.
During the 1980s, American farmers confronted the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Failed policy, mountains of debt, drought, plummeting land values, and record low crop prices devastated farm communities across the country. At the peak of the farm crisis in Iowa, around 500 family farms were auctioned off every month. Just like the farmers in the community, the Delaware County Fair was in a desperate struggle to survive.
I think my junior and senior year of the fair had kind of come on hard times, so it was just a 4-H fair at that time. There was no carnival, there was no grandstand things, there was actually no admittance, you didn't have to pay to get in. It was just a 4-H fair. I mean, it was basically, the extension office basically ran the whole thing. The 4-H, the Fair Board Association obviously owned the buildings, but they were not really doing anything. There was no hall rentals to speak of, they weren't doing anything like that. So basically we had the livestock shows and the 4-H building with the home ec exhibits, and that was basically it.
When I look at the fair, like when the first years that I came here, a lot of county fairs were struggling. And this fair in this county has kind of a unique situation in that they were very, very high support. The cattlemen, the beef show is as big as any place around. The hog show was big. But as far as entertainment and people coming to the fair, there wasn't as much going on as if you go to there today, there's a lot of entertainment, a lot of excitement. Back then, I mean, it was getting where on a warm, windy, dry day, you go up to the fair, it might be pretty quiet.
Of course, those later years when it was just a 4-H fair, we didn't have the big entertainment. At night, you know, somebody'd have a boom box going and we'd be playing, a lot of times we'd play cards with some of those people from the other schools. That was our entertainment on those nights.
With declining attendance and a farm economy in crisis, the outlook was not good for the Delaware County Fair. The community recognized this and came together to keep the fair going.
Well, I think the most positive thing was getting the community involved. We started the first year I was on the board raffling off a pickup. And we made every parade in the county and some outside the county selling these raffle tickets. And we got person-to-person involvement there and told people what we was going to do at the fair. And you know, they'd say, yeah, now we know what the fair is like. But we convinced a lot of people that we was going to have a fair.
The amount of improvements and accomplishments that we've made over the last 15, 20 years has just been unbelievable. The amount of support we've had to build starting with the grandstands, working on our beef barn a number of years ago, building a new horse arena, purchasing more land, moving the show ring over to where it's at right now and used for a horse arena or the horse building, and also building the new show ring.
I remember that the livestock couldn't all be at the fair because we didn't have facilities for it. So the sheep would come in and be in the hog barn, and then they would go home, and then the hogs would come in. Horses would come in and leave, dairy would come in and leave. Everything was in and out. And when they started working to build a building and get some money to be able to support all these other activities, that really started things hopping.
Obviously going from no carnival and no entertainment when my junior and senior year to having those things was quite a rejuvenation. And it took some guys some big risks to do that, because there wasn't money to do that, for them to risk to put that money out there to get the carnival going again and such. So, and I think that really revived the fair. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would have just maybe kind of snuck off and died.
The first show we had, I think, was in 1993. We put tarps around the stage and everything. We had an enclosed stage, so to speak, hotter than heck, and it didn't turn out the best, but the board kept working on it, and the next year it got better and better, and now I can't believe the entertainment they're getting.
Well, it was quite a bit simpler, it seemed like, than it is now. I mean, you know, there just weren't as many kids, and you knew at least half or better of the kids in the county once you went to the fair and got acquainted, you know. And I'm sure it's similar now, but you knew a lot of kids. And because I went to rural school till I went to high school, we didn't commingle with people in Delhi, or, you know, I mean, I don't mean to sound that we ignored them, but, you know, you didn't know them until you went to the fair and got acquainted with kids from all around the county.
The visiting, I mean, all the neighbors were there, so you got to visit with all the neighbors, whether it was going well or not. I mean, you know, of course the weather was always a hot topic of the conversation, because usually it was 100 degrees and it hadn't rained for a week during Fair Week.
Other than that, though, I had a lot of friends up at the fair that also showed animals, so it was such a fun social time for me, and really to develop and gain some friendships out of that. So that was one of my highlights, was when I wasn't showing, I was in the barns hanging out, you know, either hanging out at someone's show box and some lawn chairs, or going to play cards in the dairy barn after I've done my chores. Those are some of my best memories.
You know, if it wasn't for the Delaware County Fair, I wouldn't have made some of the relationships I have now.
The same things that all kids do. What was really neat about it was we didn't get to cross-mingle too much with the other schools during school time, but this is one time where we got to visit with the Beckman kids, the Maquoketa Valley kids, the West Dubuque kids.
I hope number one is that we still always have the community involvement and the support. For a fair to make it 150 years is a huge accomplishment. And I would like to see our fair continue on its trend that we're still promoting agriculture in the future, and that we still continue to supply more things for people as the society evolves and changes, that we're still meeting that goal. Ultimately, I would like to see some improvements down the road with some of our facilities, but that's the businessman side of me that says that we have to keep improving if we're going to continue to be better.
We had one vendor up there that had been there before I was on the board. And the first year I was on the board, I remember him telling us that we had one thing missing this year, and I said, oh, what was that? He said, that invisible wall. What are you talking about? Well, he said everybody was visiting with everybody else. He said there wasn't an invisible wall where you had the city people here and the farmers here. Everybody was mixing together. And that's what really made the fair to begin with.